Hello and welcome to the Outstanding Shift podcast with your host, Andrew Evans from Rossby Financial. I'm your producer, RJ Malik. And Andrew, as always, great to see you. And I'm just going to hand it off to you. I see you have a couple of guests. So why don't you introduce the topic you're going to be talking about and introduce your guests?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, RJ. Much appreciated. So this week, have once again a pleasure to introduce some folk that I know on our podcast today. We have Caileigh Carfang, as we call her, Cece, and we have Drew Keesee of Rossby Financial. Both Cece and Drew actually work with me here at the RIA, and we thought it would be a really great thing to talk about, which I don't think a lot of people do, and that is to directly talk about the younger generations and how to, I guess you could say, recruit into the industry. And this came from not only do I believe that we have to actively bring in younger talent, but and then soon, ladies, I'm going to turn it over to you. But if you remember when we were sitting down and having dinner at Future Proof in Miami, one of the members, as we were sitting down to dinner, just turned to me and then looked at the two of you and says, "How are you bringing them into your firm?" And she said, "I can't find them." And I was absolutely stunned. And I was like, they're there. You just have to look and ask. So, as I like to ask at the beginning of the podcast, my direct hilarious question would be, ladies, why does this industry suck for Gen Z? Either one of you can and you are Gen Z, so please, why does it suck?
Everything really is so automated. And I feel like people feel like that now that we have phones in our hands and they are like tiny little computers, that you're able to kind of just like have access to all the information that you may need for something like a financial advisor without actually having one. But I think people really miss like that part of like the like one-on-one personality and contact, and they just don't really know about it until they've experienced it. And then it's something that they might realize is actually out there. But on top of that, I would say also it's a very male dominated field. So getting young 20-year-old girls that are either fresh out of high school or college or whatever the case may be to come into an industry like this might be kind of intimidating. And it's also just not something that is talked about very often unless I feel like you're maybe have a connection with it in the family or relatives or whatever the case may be. So I think that's probably like the biggest like wall in the way essentially of bringing in recruiting in younger people and then also just like younger women.
Finance bros.
Yeah.
Finance bros.
Finance and frat, they go hand in hand.
Finance frat. We really have to actively change that. And so, growing up here, we're in Melbourne, and Drew's literally around the corner from me, recording this. CC is a little bit further north. But growing up here in Melbourne, I bet you probably had a little bit more finance bros in the area.
Yes and no. I mean, honestly, I would say like it kind of stems more from like the engineering, just because we do have like Blue Origin and we are like right on the Space Coast. So there's definitely a little bit more engineering that I would say maybe necessarily finance. But again, with those careers, they're definitely not far apart from each other. They definitely make you feel big in the head. I would say they give you a really good ego boost, which isn't a bad thing. But I would say like in that scheme, yes, it's similar and they do come out of here. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll flip to Cece and say, okay, so we've now been working together for a while. What's been interesting, or what's keeping you around? What's not just how awesome Drew is to keep you around, because obviously we know that that's actually number one.
Honestly, I would say the atmosphere of every single one of our advisors has really helped me, knowing that everyone has that one connection, whether it be, financial planning, just regular financial advisory, or just, little life insurance things here and there that do come up. I mean, everyone kind of has their niche, and I really appreciate that everyone wants the same end goal, and that's to make sure that their clients are taken care of. And on the back end for us, we're making sure that the advisors are able to take care of their clients and making sure that we keep that rapport for them in the background, making sure that all of their documents are there. So if there's ever a question, we're able to help them. And I really appreciate that, because there's not a single day where someone doesn't call and say, hey, I need this. Can you find this for me? And they don't appreciate it. And that is what helps me want to come back, and just all the smile on her faces, including Miss Drew, obviously. She's always smiling, which is never, ever a bad thing. So that's just my thought on everything. And it's just a very nice, calm atmosphere, even on the crazy days.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So as an open question, and things that you've now experienced in the industry, not being at it for terribly long, but we'll say meeting some, I would think some pretty darn good people. If you're in charge of it, and I know hopefully we're going to have some people that will listen to this podcast, so hopefully we get a really good guffaw, like, what would they know about it? But guess what? One day you should be running it. And I'm hoping sooner rather than later, because I kind of just want to move to the villages and be done already, but it's okay. What kind of changes would you like to see? How would you approach it, say, differently, or what do you think is needed? So, Drew, why don't you kick that off?
I mean, I would say in general, I feel like things need to be consolidated. I feel like there are so many different websites and logins and everything like that, just starting with like the technological side of like.
Okay, that hit a nerve. Okay, but why?
I would say just with like my out of the financial world experience, that people are more apt to doing things that are simple, straight to the point, cutthroat, or not cutthroat, but just very like point blank period, if you could say.
Press button, get coffee.
Exactly. And in today's time, like kind of bringing back into like the like having a phone in your hand at all times, we're really used to like, say, I want this, it comes here the next day, or you get it in a few hours even. I would say that like just consolidating things and moving them more in that direction with like all the different kind of software that we use, I feel like is something that like really needs to be brought into the finance world in general. And so many different companies I feel like are also coming out with like the same, but just like a little different, or they're like, we have this tool and this tool. I'm not using any specific examples, but like it just seems like if they could collab a little bit better and get right to like the money piece, I feel like is what like is missing.
I think everybody's already heard me say one way or the other that again, no offense to the man, but the Kitse's map is worthless at this point because there's too many. There's too many. There's too many things in each category. And I think to your point, it's like, okay, well, great. Who cares? Yeah, you'd like to see
consolidation.
Yeah. Well, so now what? Just a chat about that. Just one real thing about that. So when people are hearing this, I'm sure somebody's going to hear it and say, well, consolidation. Well, geez, well, they're doing that with Commonwealths being bought out by LPL. That's consolidation. No. That's different. That's not what we're talking about.
Consolidation in a whole different way. For me, it's just like, holy cannoli, can we slow down on the amount of software that we have to have, or, the different tools that you have to like go and seek out from other places? Like there's no reason that you can't have like your CRM and your data and everything all in one. It definitely can be done. It might take a lot of work and a little bit of brain power, but with it being 2025, I don't see why that couldn't be capable. So I'd say that's my input.
I really get disappointed that the CRMs don't share their API data very well, and then the marketing companies don't quite understand the nurture aspect of connecting well with the CRMs. So again, there's a disconnect there. So for those that have listened to the previous podcast. Actually, I don't know when this one came out, so we'll kick it to RJ. Maybe RJ will know. But when my wife was on talking about product, is that, so if you haven't heard that one, go listen to that one. It's like everybody is too focused on the feature, right, RJ? They get focused on the feature and they want to sell and create a feature as opposed to listening to the end user.
Yes, I remember that.
Okay. See, there we go. See, so thank you for the fact checking.
Okay. That's what I'm here for. I'll fact check.
Yeah. We also talked about Hulk Hogan.
Yes, we did. That was the first one.
That was the first one. So that's another one everybody needs to turn into. They got to watch that. Okay, so same question. So Cece, what would you do?
That's hard. I would say like to be less fearful of it, because when you come into it, kind of like piggybacking off of Drew, it is a lot. There is so much that you're going to learn in one whole sitting. You're going to get so many different logins to depending on where you are at, and it's very overwhelming, but there's always going to be something new that you're going to learn. So there's nothing really to fear in and of itself.
Well, I think what you're saying is like the overwhelming aspect of everything that actually is. So what I hear you saying is that you would like to somehow reduce the anxiety of it, or
I think that's a great thing. I'll chime in a little bit, not to take it away from CC, but just like from coming into it so recently, like just remembering something else that you learned that was difficult, and like remembering like that point of your life and how easy that task may be for you now, and just kind of reiterating that back into like this kind of environment, you could say, I guess, and just like reminding yourself that it's just in time that you're going to learn those things. I'll give that back to you, Cece.
You're fine. No, I appreciate it. Yeah. It's the consolidating of stress instead of the vendors. We're just consolidating the stress of everything. It should not be on the advisor to be so stressed out, and it shouldn't be on anyone else to be stressed out. It's just more so when you consolidate, like Drew was saying about consolidating everything into one, like a CRM should be able to have everything inside of it, which generally it should. And Andrew, you pitched in about it needs to have a better workflow for sending out information. That is stressful in and of itself. When it's not working the way you need it or you want it, it is extremely stressful for us and the advisors that we need information and it's not easy to get to. Like, that we need to have a better system in place for that. That is one thing I would love to change and see change in the very near future, is that workflow process be shortened out, like Drew said. That would just be so much nicer. And then we're not calling the advisors, hey, I need so-and-so's date of birth, social. Do you have that on hand for me? Yeah, it's in here. It didn't come through. Your stuff's not transferring. Why is it not working? It's the way the system's set up. We don't have change of it. We can put in our 2 cents, but not a lot's going to be changed. And the betterment of having more CRMs, a lot of people are using Redtail and Wealthbox, and they're fantastic. Don't get me wrong. They really, really are. But there's other ones out there that probably do more, may even have a better connection, but not everyone's accepting those new connections, because they're not being used as much.
Yeah, it is a general problem. But like we get kind of set in what we know and what we're using. And it's like nobody wants to stretch their wings and fly. They're like, I know what I know. Or, I think we've talked before, we've talked before in the office around the water cooler that, well, a lot of firms, I bought the thing 20 years ago. I never have to buy another thing again. I've already bought it.
It's like buying a house and not upgrading your tile in 15 years. Your house is going to look out of date when you go to sell it.
Yeah, I bought it already.
It's good.
I'll go back into it. So now over the next, let's see here. How long have I been in it? I've been doing this for 20 some years. And I'll say hilariously, now when I started, this is that old man talk. When I started, we had just had the .com crash. So that just happened. So nobody was investing. Nah, you don't want to invest. It's terrible. And I'd started, and all the people at the brokerage firm where I worked They all said, there's no way, it's pointless. There's no way to make money because they just changed all the rules. There's no way. You'll never make it. It's no good. Don't worry about it. Well, guess what? Still in it. Still doing pretty darn well. It's been pretty good. I don't think I've ever told anyone new in the industry that, nope, you can't make it, but somebody is telling them that. But I would say, or again, here's the question to the two of you. Over the next 20 years, God willing, you stay in and you are here, other than the consolidation, like you would rather have that been, and you'd like things to, kind of remove that fear. What do you want to see happen? What are the major changes that you think will happen, or that you would love to see happen? And that's not just the industry. I'm talking about like you as a person, and not even from and not certainly not from a work standpoint either. Like what do you as a person? What would you love to see change about the financial industry at large? What's the Gen Z attitude? What's the kids on the street saying?
I would say, for me personally, one, I would love to see it become a little bit more mainstream, like more financial advisory talk. I had never personally ever thought about having a financial advisor, speaking with one. The only example I really had of one was my husband has a financial advisor for his business mainly, but that was the first taste I ever had of what a financial advisor can do with you and setting up investment accounts and things like that. But I would just like to see that become more mainstream, and maybe financial advisors that are more so looking to have clientele that's a little bit more not so grand, or maybe having such a large, does that make sense? I would like to see that kind of going at people that maybe aren't making the most money in the world, but are still looking to make smart financial decisions and have that kind of person to rely on. I feel like that's definitely an untapped market. And just in general, going back to that face-to-face, that one-on-one contact does a lot more for people. And the farther that we are getting more technologically advanced in the next few years, or even in the past 10 years, it's obviously fading away. So I think that is something that will come back into play with CC and I's generation, since we tend to kind of, I feel revert back into older ways. We're going to want more face-to-face time, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense.
At least for myself and my generation, I would do anything to not use my phone or computer for a day. So I think, like I said, again, just getting back into those basics of using a pen and paper and talking to your financial advisor in some way that's more personal than just asking Google how I can save money to buy a house.
Fantastic. I really hope people are listening, especially the product people, is that it's not all about AI. AI is a tool to help and support, but you still want that face-to-face.
I think AI is a great thing. I don't think it definitely has it definitely has its spot in this field. But I think a lot of it's missed with just everybody wanting everything to be so automated and on the phone or through some website or some kind of workflow, that we start to lose out on the actual character building and relationships that you build with people to actually learn them and learn what their goals are and what they want to achieve in life. Those are all great things that a computer can't do for you. So
yeah. And we'll come back to that planning, that accessibility thing. But CC, you're a mom of an adorable little girl as well.
Yes, I am genuinely nervous for when she gets older, because I have a distinct feeling, as much as we would love it to go back to being in person, actually getting to know your financial advisor or even your financial planner, whoever it may be, or however they may want to be.
Your bank teller, that's just still isn't that's not a relationship that I will ever make in my life for right now. But I know that my grandparents probably knew their bank tellers by their names and things like that. Maybe that's a little bit more specific, but
honestly, though, in our hometown, that's all we did. You walked into the bank and they knew you personally, and you would go out and see each other. You're like, oh, hey, how's it going? You can't do that anymore. There's no face-to-face interaction. Even just to change your address, usually they're like, oh, you can do that online. You're not allowed to, you don't need to come in person. We're like, that's great. But in order for it to be done properly instead of through a computer, we would like it to be done in person. So that way we know it's being taken care of and it's not getting lost somewhere in your system.
Or it's not like another 7-part step. So going back to like consolidation, like usually if something is on a computer, then you're like, okay, get on the computer, then call this person and then get back on the computer and type in that code. And it's like, whoa, why did we have to do all that? Isn't the whole point of the computers to be easier?
Exactly. And even just trying to get into systems, yes, we want them to be secure. We want them to not be able to be breached easily. But when you're asking us questions the whole way, certain of what was the first car you ever owned, for some people, that was a very long time ago. And that is not to say that anyone is old. We are all young. But I remember a client calling me one day and she's like, I don't know what my first car was. She said, I had this car in 3 different colors. I don't know which one it is. There's only 4 options. So it's obviously one that you didn't have. But they just go so in depth. And I appreciate it because, again, we need it to be secure, that it cannot be breached easily. But in the same aspect, it's like, all right, let's not make this so hard that our people that are not so technologically savvy are able to get through this without having to call people. And trying to get a hold of someone when you have a question is impossible. When you're even just trying to call for an appointment to meet with someone, it's even more impossible than just trying to sign that one little document itself. I have to say, I know I'm piggybacking a lot, but streamlining the process of getting things accomplished would definitely be easier for younger and older generations right now and in the future.
I find that interesting, if you don't mind me chiming in. I'm obviously older than all of you, and I actually went to a smaller bank on purpose because I didn't want to deal with the big corporate bank, and I actually had a bad experience with a big corporate bank. So I went to a smaller bank, and a couple of years ago I had a health issue, and the bank, my wife doesn't do business with the same bank. She has a different bank that she works with, but they knew who I was, and I was hospitalized for a couple of days. So she had to get in there to make sure to pay bills, but they knew who I was, and they knew she was able to, tell them that she was my wife, and she proved it, and they worked with her and helped. And I didn't lose any, I didn't miss any payments on any bills or anything like that. So, yeah, I mean, those little things, they add up.
No, and I think generally, like with like our generation, I could say, I think like that we're kind of reverting back into that, like, well, wait, computers are amazing. I couldn't, imagine not having both my little iPads on me at all times, but I would like to have more like genuine actual relationships with people, because at the end of the day, that's also like what makes you a sane person. So it's like, if we're always, making everything so artificial, it's like, where are you going to have that instance where they, know your wife's name because of your husband's name and things like that. So
there's always going to be a place for the giga corporation, and there are people who love working at the giga corporation. And I think that's like my sister, and hopefully I don't offend her, and one day she'll come on my podcast because she's fun to talk to. But like, that's what she likes. That's what she likes.
Yeah.
And
well,
like
it's
me,
good to have people like that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But me, to like what we're saying about the bank, or, I think I've referenced before, we even said in another podcast, is like, yeah, I also like going to Ace Hardware because sometimes I have a question and I don't want somebody just to like look at me and say, it's an aisle 7 and here it is, and get a little rough with me. I like somebody to say, oh, well, just tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to achieve. Just a little bit more. And I like that. As opposed to aisle 7. I got to go move other stuff. Goodbye. Okay. Cece was about to bring something up. Cece, what you got?
No, I was going to say, I just had a funny story. So when we were going to Miami for Future Proof and everything, on my way into the hotel that night, I was somehow managed to meet this gentleman, and he was the Uber driver, and he was very, very nice, very funny. But I kind of had to laugh because he said, well, what brings you to Miami? And I said, well, we have a conference here. I said, it's Future Proof. I said, it's here every year. I said, it's for financial advisors and everything. And he said, oh, who needs a financial advisor anymore? It's 2020. It's 2024 or 2025, whatever year it was that when we went to Future Proof. I can't even remember now. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, who needs a financial advisor? I said, well, I'm kind of confused by your question, because everyone should have at least a financial advisor just to help them, to guide them at what's going to be best for them. And he said, no, everything's on my phone. He said, I can find any piece of information on what's good right now, what stocks I should be investing. And then I said, yeah, okay. I said, and how is your portfolio looking right now? And he's like, what do you mean? And I said, how is it looking? Are you doing well? Are you gaining? Or are you losing? He's like, oh, I don't check it every day. I'm like, here's your problem. That's why you need a financial professional to help you. I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, no, he said, they take your money more than anything. And I was like, no, actually, there is a actual rule called a fiduciary rule. I said, you might want to look into it at one point. I said, it's a real thing. We're looking to better help your investments, not take from them.
Yeah. Well, it's like the same thing. People say, I don't go to doctors. Is take your money. They don't know what they're doing. Like, okay, that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. A guy I used to work with years ago, we'd go to lunch, older gentleman in the industry. Guy would walk in to this restaurant. He'd look at him and he'd go, he looks like a broker. And guess what? We're not brokers. That's not what we do. It's just not what we do. And so I'd say, hopefully for ladies, for your generation, to what Drew said before, I really do hope that we can build something here as an industry that continues to grow, that can bring more financial guidance support to the masses at easy to digest, easy to access prices. That it is not just for people of wealth, that anyone in any walk of life, any stage of life, can get some help, get some guidance. And I'm always very happy every day to work with the both of you. And it always makes me very happy to see how the two of you are continually developing and just getting better in what you do every day. Love it every day. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Very welcome. Well deserved.
So you're wrapping things up?
I think we are wrapping things up now.
Then let's do some contact information. We'll start with Drew.
All right. If you guys want to get in contact with me for any way, what reason, I can be reached at 321-474-5756. You can also email me at dkeesee@rossbyfinancial.com. And last but not least, you can also find me on LinkedIn at Drew Keesee, and I work at Rossby Financial and Crunch.
Fantastic. Caileigh?
Yes, you can. My contact information is 321-474-5463. And you can email me at ccarfang@rossbyfinancial.com.
All right. And most importantly, Andrew.
Oh, please. 321-209-0157, A. Evans at rossbyfinancial.com. Don't forget, if this was your first one that you listened to, listen to the other ones and stick around. Right, RJ?
Definitely listen to the one that Lindsay's on. I know it's a good one. I haven't even heard it myself yet, but I know it's good.
Yeah, but you know that she's great.
Yeah.
It was good. Andrew and I talked about Hulk Hogan on the first one. I mean, how could you miss that, right?
Eat that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And most importantly, thank you for listening to the Outstanding Shift podcast. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, please click the subscribe button below. This way, when the team comes out with a new podcast, it will show up directly on your listening device. And we humbly ask you to share this podcast, rate it, and leave a review, because this actually helps others find the show. Again, thank you for listening. And for everybody at Outstanding Shift podcast, I'm RJ Malik, and we look forward to you joining us for our next podcast.